Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Friday, January 12th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is Hierophant in its reversal. I'm not particularly surprised to see this card today, specifically due to the fact that we have been seeing that for kind of all of the energetic frequencies right now, there's been a lot of motion towards taking some unconventional approaches to circumstances and situations. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. One of the reasons that the work that you are doing right now is so difficult is that it is non-conventional. You are forging new pathways. You are breaking new ground. You are doing things in ways that are different than ways of the past. And whenever we move into this unconventional energy, it can feel very arduous because, again, it's almost like you're building and you're creating and you don't necessarily have that map or that script to allow you to be like, oh, this is all we need to do. We just put this, I've got the thing from IKEA. I just need to put this thing here. I just need to put that thing there. You don't have that right now. This is some very complex work that we see that the energy in the divine union is setting their path work on. And that ability, though, I have to stress, the reason energetically that the energy in the divine union is encountering this is because it is well equipped. It is most well equipped to be able to find and figure out new solutions to very unique problems. So you may be feeling like that right now, masculine and feminine and divine union. It may be feeling like a little bit wacky because a lot of this feels like there's heavy nuance surrounding things. It's not these problems, these circumstances, these connections that you're trying to heal. They're not cut and dry. They are very, very unique. They are very, very nuanced. They take a very specific, gentle approach, but that is the power of the energy in the divine union. The ability to co-create together allows a bit of flexibility as it relates to coming into that modality of thought that is required for breaking new ground. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union. This is the anxiety you're potentially feeling as it relates to some of the energy around you right now that is putting a lot of care, effort, and attention into it. And I have to stress right now, this is different. This is different. The energy on the outskirts of the divine union frequency cannot move in the same modality as the energy in the heart of it, because the energy trying to move into it has to navigate more of the external situations and circumstances. So again, while we see that the energy in the divine union frequency can put a lot of care, effort, intentionality, and attention towards these things. They can tackle the hard thing first. It's because they aren't doing it first. They've already tackled the hard thing of coming into the divine union frequency. The focus doesn't need to be on that because it's already been reached, and that is allowing an easement to take some of these unconventional approaches. This is going to feel more right now for the energy on the outskirts of the divine union frequency, a bit like that moment of having to cultivate healthy boundaries, because a lot of this, even with the feminine opening up more to masculine, articulating more to masculine about the landscape surrounding the feminine energy. Masculine, again, recognizing and even seeing experiences recently that felt like they were causing some sense of anxiety or potentially even some kind of risk to the divine union forming. That asserting right now and that affirming of feeling what's best and what's in the best interest of the divine union feels like a lot of hard work. It's requiring a lot of hard work. And even now we see that even dealing with some of these unhealed circumstances that the feminine may be revealing to the masculine right now, simply because the masculine is doing same, is allowing masculine and feminine energy to take that different approach of tackling unhealed karmic situations together. And having that modality of being able to handle these situations together is the unconventional approach, because having that ability is giving you a new perspective. It is giving you a new opportunity. It is creating a lot of different places here that you can now take different approaches, because you're recognizing that you're not doing it from the perspective of the self. You are doing it with a mindfulness of what you are trying to protect, that you are creating in the process. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation This is the amplification about those different approaches. You will remember that one of the things that we are seeing that is happening right now for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now is almost coming into a place of opening up to masculine and almost saying to masculine, like amplifying to masculine, I am not saying these things to you for the sake of trying to get back into divine union. This is feminine energy ripping the band-aid off, if you will, on some things and saying to masculine, like, look, I'm telling you the hard part now, because I need to stress to you that right now what we're seeing is not a feminine that, again, is trying to control, trying to like convince, trying to this is a feminine that's like recognizes in separation that if masculine does not want to be in divine union, there is nothing on this earth that feminine can say to express and explain to masculine the benefits of that. This is more feminine trying to identify what it is that masculine actually wants, especially if something has happened over the last few days or weeks that has amplified to the feminine that something that the masculine is saying does not match what the masculine is doing. Having that modality right now, having that point of observation is why we see this as a feminine saying, I need to stress to you, I'm not saying this because I need you to fall into some kind of template of what I desire to happen between us. I just need clarity to know what it is that you want. Masculine, you may be feeling the same weight right now from the feminine, recognizing that this is feminine that is almost encouraging you to be open and honest about what the true honest shape of what it is that you aspire and desire for is. And it's this modality right now, even in separation masculine, that feels like it is a bit of a challenge. It feels like it is a bit of a breaking from the status quo, because again, this isn't a feminine that is just kind of going by the playbook and making the assumption that you guys are moving into something right now, because this is a feminine energy that is specifically in separation for feeling the frustration of potentially a masculine that feels like they were just saying and affirming what the feminine wants. This is why we see that a lot of the feminine energy is almost refusing to tell the masculine what they desire right now for fear of experiences in the past where the feminine may have said, I would like a relationship to look like this. The masculine said, yep, me too. Only for feminine to not see the masculine actually moving in that direction. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. But again, having that openness masculine with the feminine may feel like a bit of a trigger point right now, because it is making you kind of take new approaches. And when we take new approaches, we don't have a compass. We don't have a map. It feels like potentially, depending on where you are astrologically, it's either something that feels very exciting or it feels very frightening. Again, it can feel somewhat triggering to be in this modality, especially for the energy and separation right now, because again, this is feminine that's almost saying to masculine, I'm willing and I'm trying to be adaptable and to accept you and to meet you where you are. But you have to tell me where that is. You have to tell me where that is. We literally cannot build anything together if you do not tell me where you are, because that's a feminine saying. If not, then what we're creating together is an illusion, because you're telling me you're in one space and you're in a completely different space. Relationships can't be like a game of Battleship. You just need to tell me where your coordinates are so that I can tell you whether I can meet you there or whether I cannot. Masculine, this is why we see right now that there's this modality, thank you for the gift, that almost feels like it is encouraging you to take charge. It is encouraging you to like lead the charge here, because this is feminine that's saying, let me surprise you. Let me surprise you. Let me show you if I can meet you in that point. This is a feminine that's almost like requiring you to do so. And it does feel, for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, a bit like having to take a leap of faith, because feminine's almost saying to you, the only thing that feminine will not tolerate, the only thing that's actually going to break a connection right now is if they feel like the masculine energy, I'm going to keep saying this, these are the two watchwords this week, clarity, intentionality of purpose. Because again, what are we seeing from the feminine energy that is experiencing this right now? Not seeing clarity and intentionality and purpose from a masculine energy in separation is only indicative of one of two different modalities. And feminine has decided that either one of those modalities is not navigable. It's not something that they can move with. And that is either a masculine that does not know what they want, and that's why they cannot articulate it, or a masculine energy that knows what they want, but they are too afraid to tell the feminine, because that is a moment of the masculine feeling inherently like the feminine will not desire it in kind. And having a moment of realizing a masculine is not saying something to feminine for fear that the feminine will reject it is almost immediately leading to rejection, because the more concerning situation with that is that that is a masculine that is not allowing the feminine the gift of choice, which is why we see the feminine saying, you must let me choose, but I cannot choose unless you tell me. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. We see here a lot of protectiveness that is occurring for masculine in coming into the divine union frequency, specifically because some of the things that we identified that may have been somewhat triggering, even for the masculine to hear, this revelation, this opening up on the part of the feminine, may have to do with feminine opening up about deep karmic connections that still exist or are prevalent in the feminine's life. I need to stress here, when I say karmic connections, I am not talking about externalized relationships that aren't there. We cannot be in communication with someone and still be in a karmic connection. We are seeing here that this opening up, feminine almost showing masculine more of the landscape, as they grow deeper into connectivity, is almost showing masculine more of where these threads exist, more of where these connections points are. And what we see here is, again, a modality that masculine, for their part, the reason feminine is doing this, if you're moving into divine union, is because masculine, you are doing so as well. Feminine was almost acting as, again, a mirror, revealing more to you, because they saw that it wasn't the fact, and I'm going to keep saying this, the energy moving into divine union isn't pretending that there aren't other karmic connections in their life. They're not just pretending like they're the man who fell to earth. They didn't just drop down here yesterday and say, hi, I'm here to come into divine union with you. I've never been in connection with anyone else ever before. I am brand new. This is the nuance that is happening here. This is getting a deeper understanding of the connection points. And the important thing, and I have to stress to you, the reason that this work is occurring right now for energy coming into the divine union is because the prioritization of the energetic connection has been established enough for the energies to feel comfortable with one another. And that recognition of the difference between prioritization, recognizing where the priority is allowing a degree of openness and clarity, because when you know that one is in a point of priority, you're not going to be triggered by hearing about other connection points. Right? If you know where the priority lies, seeing the fact that there are other lines, that there are other threads, isn't going to be an anxiety-inducing moment. It's going to give you a moment of deeper understanding of the other and functionality. And what we see here is this opening is almost like, again, revealing more of those threads to one another, showing more of those sides, explaining, clarifying those other connections. Because as you do so, the work of amplifying and showing all of those threads is almost like showing someone the map of the self. But almost, again, the reason that you're able to do that is because you've said to the other person, you are my cardinal direction. I can show you where all these other continents are. I can show you where all these other places are, because you know that you and what we're creating together is my cardinal direction. And what we see here is that is almost allowing a level or degree, much like the energy that's already in the heart of the divine union, that is creating new connectivity points for the energy moving into divine union frequency, and also solutions to problems. New perspectives on how to address things, because it's not the fact that these connection points all disappear and vanish when you come into divine union. They need to be able to create a point of accommodation. Things need to stretch out. We see that those ripples have been coming into play. And this is what's empowering the energy right now to move forward, by almost amplifying and articulating and clarifying where all these threads are, because now they are each other's threads. That is the enmeshment. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency. You've already done this to a certain extent. You probably have a hard time telling the difference between where one person's thread starts and the other begins. Someone's past becomes your past. Someone's history becomes your history. Kevin Bacon effect, karmically. How many degrees of separation between you and that other person? Sometimes it starts getting a little foggy. And again, what we're seeing here for masculine and feminine, this ability to be open in this way, this ability to connect in this way, is, again, much like the energy coming into the divine union right now, allowing for a lot of unconventional approaches right now, but it does feel more nuanced because we see here for the energy right now in the heart of the divine union, this is not something that you are inadvertently stumbling upon. This is something that you're moving towards right now with a lot of intentionality and purpose. This third card in our 5-card spread for today is Empress in its reversal. It does require some work right now because we've been seeing that there has been a bit of a trigger point that has been being reached this week for masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculines has been coming from a point of doubting and having a lack of faith in their own ability to fix something. We almost saw that coming. We're not surprised to see that to a certain extent, masculine, because we saw here, what did you have to do to be able to move towards some things right now? Abandon the outcome. Abandon the fact that you were doing something because of the confirmation and the 100% certainty that an outcome would be elicited. This is masculine that had to affirm to themselves that they were moving in this way simply because this is an amplification of their own healing journey right now. Feminine, this is a little bit more difficult right now because this isn't necessarily a lack of confidence here. This is that moment of feminine potentially doubting in your own ability to be seen, appreciated, and loved. This is why we see that this work right now for feminine energy as it relates to wanting to externalize some of this work of the self in a practical way outwards is simply due to the fact that we see here that in a way some of this work, this amplification outwards, feels a bit counter positional to something that is in alignment to the feminine's healing journey. Why is this? Because this is a feminine energy that has been learning the value and importance of not over giving to situations that do not give back to them in kind. So what does one do? What does one do when one hits that stumbling block of wanting to see if something can be healed, yet at the same time not wanting to overgive themselves to situations that do not give back in kind? This is why we see that feminine is doing a little bit of gentle walking towards something right now, because this is feminine energy trying to decide how much attention to give something. Potentially even talking to masculine about it. Potentially trying to get some point of advice from masculine on this, trying to help them see this territory. That's why we see feminine to a certain extent. When masculine wanted to take this step before, feminine was like, whoa, 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 buddy, you don't want to do that. Because this is why we see this. This was feminine that was trying to like warn masculine about this. But this is now feminine realizing that there's something about this that feminine even sees is a little bit of a catch-22, even in their own healing journey. That's because there's a good time for everything. And that's why we see here that feminine is actually utilizing, much like the Mercury in retrograde period, the aspect of time. Feminine is almost looking at something now and saying, is there an ability, much like masculine did, because they're observing how masculine is tackling things much more in a tangible way right now, and saying, is there a possibility here for me to do the same without creating a situation and circumstance wherein I overgive to something, I imbalance that ratio. This is feminine doing a lot of that, like trying to figure out how to do it. And it's feeling a little bit difficult because it feels a little bit like splitting hairs here as it relates to what action should feminine take towards some things versus whether they should take any action. Masculine, you may be seeing this on the part of a feminine energy, and it may come through right now in the sense of feminine vacillating a little as it relates to their approach and their direction towards some things. And what we're seeing with masculine that's helping the feminine right now, this is going to feel a little bit like the energetic equivalent of masculine saying, just pick a place to eat. As long as you pick it and as long as you hold on to that, then that's fine. But what you can't do back and forth. You can't go in and out. You can't go wibbly wobbly here. Because what we're seeing to a certain extent is masculine is almost saying the only way you could potentially further damage anything that you're looking to heal here is if you don't, is if you allow yourself that lack of confidence in what it is that you truly desire. This is masculine almost helping the feminine right now in divine union. And feminine is either gaining this by example of watching the masculine, or they're actually having conversations about this, about the importance. Doesn't matter what tactic you take, but once you choose that tactic, you need to stay on that path. you need to move in that direction, because it's a minute that you start vacillating that can almost start to create some unhealed karmic energy for the feminine, because that's that moment that may start creating confusion, because that's almost like a feminine that's completely changing their coordinates like all the time. So we see here that feminine is almost learning this ability right now from masculine if in the divine union frequency. Energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is why we see that something about this feels like it has to take a bit of an unconventional approach right now, because masculine, it's this moment of observation we're seeing. For a lot of the energy right now coming into the divine union frequency, the observation is simply one that masculine is having to say to some of the energy around them right now. This is giving a little bit of patience that's required around things. And this is potentially even masculines trying to amplify to energy around them right now that they need to like move away from something for the sake of what they're creating with feminine. This is continuing to be an ongoing struggle area for the energy coming into divine union. This is like a bit of a box that's been opened, because again, for some of the energy right now, the reason this is happening is because this is that modification point, trying to figure out what these connection points look like now that there's that factor of divine union here. And one of the things that we see that is masculine is almost amplifying, which is helping the masculine regulate between what feels like it is productive, what they feel like they're carrying forward with them as they move into divine union or not, has to do with how the energy is accepting it. Whether the energy around the masculine right now is celebrating the fact that they're in union, that's going to be affirmation of masculine feeling like that's a positive connection point, versus any energy that is feeling the frustration of a masculine's attention being diverted towards a feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That's that moment of masculine potentially feeling like they need to move away from something, or they need to correct something and say, let's be clear, this isn't feminine masculine doing something because of someone. This is masculine doing something from a place or state of choice. And that's why we see that this is masculine that is potentially, again, making a lot of adjustments in their own life, especially if energy around them is trying to like amplify or articulate that they don't like to see a divine union forming, that they see some changes happening. But it's like, yes, that's what happens when you go into divine union. There are changes that occur because the amplification of one's time, effort, and energy does shift. Masculine, and it does feel for masculine potentially like a bit of a maturation process as you're experiencing this. Feminine and masculine going through this right now, what we're also seeing is the fact that, again, this is a feminine that is feeling anxiety about something that they've shared with the masculine. This is almost a feminine that's almost trying to amplify to a masculine that their lack of not expressing something prior to this point wasn't due to a lack of love. It was built on a point of anxiety. And this is how we see here the masculine is supporting the feminine at this time if feminine is feeling that point of anxiety. Because this is, again, a masculine energy that is almost reaffirming to the feminine that if something happened in the past wherein a partnership was broken because feminine revealed something about themselves, this is masculine almost saying, this is not that. I accept you in every modality that you can show me. This is the masculine almost rushing, much like the energy in the divine union, to say, show me where you are fragile so I can show you where I'm going to put my strength. Show me where you feel vulnerable so that I can show you that that is the place I'm going to make you strong. So this is a masculine that's showing through their actions that this is a masculine that does not move away from feminine when she starts to feel that sense of vulnerability and anxiety. And feminine seeing masculine this way is also deepening the bond of connection. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see feminine energy is employing a tactic of what could have potentially feel for a lot of masculine energy like a bit of tough love. A lot of masculine energy is potentially having a lot of conversations from feminine right now, and they may be questioning whether the feminine energy cares or loves them. I have to say right now, I've been saying this all week, masculine, if there's a feminine energy saying some difficult things to you, saying some things you've never heard before, saying some things right now that you're looking at and you're having to see these optics on something, that is because there's a feminine energy around you right now that is almost moving from a place of such deep love that they're not putting that sense of self first and foremost. This is potentially a feminine energy that's trying to say to the masculine in every way, shape, or form, I'm not saying these things to you to try to woo you back or win you over. I am saying these things to you to see if there's something here that can be salvaged. I am saying these things to you because even if we do not move forward from this point, I am trying to equip you. I'm trying to equip you with what you need to be able to have better partnerships in the moving forward. This is like energetically feminine, like literally trying to stick like sandwiches in the pocket of a masculine, having this moment as the masculine's pushing back, because this is feminine almost saying to masculine, I feel like you're telling me in every way, shape, or form you don't want me. And I'm at least trying to tell you on the way what you need so that you can be able to build a better connection from here. Because this is almost the feminine that's trying to articulate to masculine. If masculine hasn't been able to give these things to feminine, this is feminine almost giving that expression of love through the sense of trying to give the masculine something back to themselves that they feel will allow for something productive going forward. And this is almost a feminine that is like sacrificing their connection with masculine to a certain extent, saying, I want you to understand, if I'm saying something to you that's hard to hear, it's because I've abandoned that hope right now that this is something that can be remedied, because you're not showing any ability or desire to remedy it, but I'm at least hoping that you can hear, so that that may be something that you can continue forward with going forward. For some of the masculine energy right now, you could feel that energy potentially with some of this feminine energy. Specifically, if this has reached a modality or point where the feminine's been trying to amplify to you what they need to see changed or adjusted, if there is this moment, because we see for a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now, this is either a modality wherein you are trying to show the feminine, and I do see, I have to stress here, there is a possibility of partnership coming back together for some of these modalities right now. The possibility of whether this is restorative or not is, again, whether masculine energy, you're taking this, as we said, a feminine saying this to you as literally trying to show you what needs to be fixed. If you're taking this, if you're taking what they're saying and putting it into practical application, if this is a feminine saying like, there's something here about, scheduling. You say, well, we're going to work harder on schedule. If feminine is saying this is something, a problem here, and you're going, well, we're going to do that. If you're taking that fixer-upper approach to things right now, the feminine's bringing that problem forth and you're seeking a solution. You're showing her that you've got that ability to fix something. Then this is something that is going to potentially get healed. But if this is a masculine energy, that if the feminine's trying to say these things to masculine, and they're becoming oppositional, if they're becoming reactive, if you're trying to argue or negate what the feminine's saying, then this is feminine that's almost saying it to you now with the desired approach, and you can probably feel it saying, at least hear what I have to say to you. If you're not coming into a place that you want to remedy it, then at least listen to what I'm saying so that you can take these messages with you as you proceed forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, we have here, what are we seeing here? This is because for a lot of feminine energy right now, I need to express, if this is feminine energy that is in separation with masculine and has tried to tell the masculine energy what needs to be fixed, but instead of the masculine hearing what the feminine's saying, and instead of hearing the feminine saying, I'm telling you there's a leak in the sink. I'm telling you that the fridge isn't working. I'm telling you that this isn't here. If instead of saying like, I acknowledge what you're saying, I can do something to fix that. I acknowledge what you're saying, I can do something to fix that. If instead you're saying, no, it's not. The sink is not leaking. The fridge is not broken. You're just making problems where problems don't exist. If you're moving into that modality, then this is again almost feminine that's coming into a point of saying, at least hear what I have to say. Because this is going to happen again. This almost feminine trying to prepare the masculine by giving that act of love is now moving into not trying to say these things for the hope of fixing something. This is almost feminine trying to say something as moving that love into a place that just is expressing genuine care for masculine, saying, I want you to at least hear what I'm saying, because if you're not observing this, I fear that you might not be able to have connection points moving forward, because this is feminine almost trying to identify to masculine. The problem is potentially the reactivity of the masculine when it comes to addressing a need that the feminine's trying to articulate. For other parts of the masculine energy and separation right now, this modality of feminine saying to you, I need you to validate, I need you to amplify the difference that I see right now between what I thought we were moving towards versus what you're showing me through your actions. Masculine, if you're either doing that work of explaining and clarifying that right now, telling the feminine what you desire, leading that charge, and also being able to address any of those points that feminine is feeling are the anxiety points about the failure of potential partnership, this could potentially come back into union. There's light here. There's a light at the end of this tunnel. There's a possibility here for a lot of this energy, even if you're in separation at this moment. But this is the guidepost back to those places. It starts with that accountability and clarification of intentionality. And that, having that created between masculine and feminine, basically creates the coordinates of positivity and productivity through which something can take root and grow. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, you're providing this for each other right now. And it's not the fact we see here. Feminine is actually moving into a place or space where they're not necessarily just moving towards masculine right now, showing all the positive things. This is masculine potentially seeing all sides of the feminine right now, even those moments or places that feminine feels less than confident on. This is feminine almost showing, like, again, this is like the masculine saying, like, I want to see all sides of you. This is feminine starting to feel vulnerable enough to reveal some of those less appealing sides of themselves. And when I say less appealing, I have to stress here, I don't mean less appealing. I mean those sides of those themselves that feminine feels more vulnerable about. Those parts of the self that make feminine feel weak. And we see here that, again, the energy, and why does feminine feel weak? Because feminine feels like these are the parts that may have left them and in an abandonment wound, that may have led to points of rejection in the past, may have led to energy that almost moved away from the feminine when they saw them in that modality. And the energy staying in the divine union right now is masculine saying, show me more of that. I love that. That's now my favorite thing. That thing that you feel uncomfortable about, that is now my favorite thing. I want to see only that moving forward. And we see that the energy right now coming into divine union, even feeling that vibration right now, feminine recognizing a masculine, and maybe even seeing to a certain extent. Here's the important thing about this. This is really sweet. This is feminine that can kind of even feel a masculine, like prior to that moment, not necessarily feeling like that, but that's the point, that feminine's really feeling the value, because it's a masculine that when they say, I love all parts of you, and the things that you show me, even if I didn't love them before, now now they're becoming my favorite thing because they are uniquely you. This is feminine feeling that bond that's being created here. Masculine, you may be feeling this too, because again, that amplification of saying, of feminine opening up to you and realizing and recognizing that feminine is showing you these places and parts of themselves that they feel most vulnerable. It isn't necessarily something that is leading you away from the feminine energy, even though you're seeing here that there may be some fear of it. It's something that's just driving you closer towards them. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency, you do this for each other all the time. And that modality right now, that ability to do so, is what is allowing you to handle some very unique situations right now. It could be feeling like you're dealing with some geometry, some high grade trigonometry energetically and emotionally right now. Specifically because you realize, and I have to stress here, the strength of the bond that you have together is what is allowing you to do some of that more refining work. The point that you have, being able to be in the heart of the divine union frequency, the stability it creates, this is why this is something that you work to cherish. And it doesn't feel like you need to put as much concentration in maintaining it because you've kind of fixed upon that vibration for yourselves. But it's now allowing you to do a lot of this heavier lifting as it really relates to healing some karmic connections and situations beyond the energetic frequency that you currently find yourself in. And it's taking that unconventional approach right now that may feel a little tricky. Continuing, especially for feminine. Because again, this is that modality of feminine trying to see the masculine's own approach and figure out a way to uniquely move forward that feels in alignment with the feminine without breaking feminine's own boundaries, about not over-giving to situations that aren't giving back in kind. That is the big question for feminine right now in divine union. How does one maintain the lessons from the Venus in retrograde cycle that we had this summer, recognizing the importance of not over-giving to situations that don't give back in time, but how do you still put some kind of healing there without that over-giving effect? Fifth card in our 5 cards, it's a hard question. Fifth card in our 5-card spread is, it's a hard question. The feminine's I gotta do some algebra. This is feminine doing some emotional, spiritual algebra right now. So a lot of the feminine energy If you're going through this right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, it is feeling like it is not necessarily something that you're doing from your heart space right now. Feminine's not looking at this right now from the emotional way. Feminine's literally, when I said like it's a hard question, feminine's got it like going, I got to go to my mind palace and figure this one out. I got to go up into my mind palace. I got to go up into my mind palace and figure this one out, because this is a little bit of this is a brain teaser. This isn't an energetic or spiritual brain teaser, right? How does one heal something without overgiving to situations that do not give back in kind? Where is that ratio effect? So we see here that this is feminine right now doing a lot of work, because this is where we see a lot of that unique question that is occurring right now for the energy of the feminine in the divine union. Okay? Group activity. Now, masculine and feminine. Masculine, you may be seeing a feminine that is working through a little bit of this like energetic or spiritual calculus. But this is also potentially masculine energy in the heart of the divine union. This is probably why you appreciate the feminine energy that you're in divine union with, because you realize that this is a feminine energy that doesn't just operate from their head space. They don't just operate from their heart space. They do, their work that they do is navigating the calculus in between these two spaces. They're doing a lot of this hard work to try to figure out what that path looks like. Masculine's a lot more right now in that look before you leap mentality. Masculine's a lot more like, I'm just going to run in that direction and make a lot of noise, and something's going to happen. Something's going to happen here. But you have to recognize that masculine's almost feeling that ability to do that right now in divine union, because they know they've got a feminine energy that's like screaming, calling out over their shoulder throughout the way, being like, go left, stop, hold on, wait, put on a coat. You know, this is feminine that's giving masculine that confidence to do that. And it isn't necessarily feminine feeling like they can do that, because this is feminine realizes that they're doing the energetic work for masculine in this capacity. And to a certain extent, masculine's own ability isn't this. Masculine isn't providing this to feminine. This is why feminine is moving a lot more slowly, because it feels like this is what I was, remember when I was telling you energetically the problem between the masculine and the feminine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is that yang energy. That's that energy being like, woo, you know, just zipping forward, you know, and allowing that to just propel forward. But again, it's getting that insight. It's getting that clarity from the feminine. So feminine is almost moving with a little bit more care, a little bit more discernment, a little bit more care, like caution, recognizing to a certain extent that masculine's always going to encourage them to almost like look before you leap a little bit. And that's why even now feminine is trying to find that path that feels right and comfortable for them. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. This modality right now is something that we see that energetically is effectively happening as it relates to opening up right now more about the energy surrounding the divine union frequency, or the energies coming into it. This is not a moment that you can do this intentional path work of trying to find that, like, you know, way to heal unhealed karmic energy around the divine union right now. It's just making you have to face it. And this is why we see feminine having recognized a masculine that is being more articulate and open about the unhealed connections around them at this time. This is feminine that is trying to match masculine in this modality, but we see that feminine is a lot more conscientious about this, because feminine has that fear that something that they may potentially reveal to the masculine may drive the masculine energy away from them. But that's why we see here that this is a feminine energy. If this is a masculine that instead of running away from feminine and finding them at that point of vulnerability is moving closer to them, this is a feminine that almost immediately reveals more. This is almost a feminine energy that's doing so because they realize that the value of a partnership right now is the fact that this is a masculine that doesn't just see them or desire them because of those positives. It's not just a masculine who just wants the nice parts of feminine and doesn't want any of that heaviness. This is a masculine that's almost embracing all sides of feminine and seeing that even in the feminine's darkness, there is light. Even in the places and the faces that feminine feels less than positive, less than vulnerable, masculine sees the whole package of feminine. And that is what the masculine is embracing. And that is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy coming into divine union right now, seeing a masculine that is embracing their vulnerabilities, the things they're vulnerable on, and even potentially seeing them over giving in that way. This is a feminine that's almost being like, they're over giving me in that way because they know that's my vulnerability. That's a feminine going, and I'm okay with that because that's beautiful. That almost makes it more beautiful. Masculine and feminine in separation. This is a feminine energy again. That's either, we're seeing here, there's energy in separation to a certain extent that we are seeing and recognizing that if in separation, there is a possibility. I have to say, more than anything, more than I've seen in like almost a year, this is like a lot of potential possibility of coming back into union right now in relation to the ability to find some pathwork here if in separation that could lead to something productive. Because what we're effectively seeing for a lot of the energy here at play is the fact that if this is feminine energy that is opening up to masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, and amplifying that this is not a feminine energy that is trying to give masculine wordplay. This is not a feminine energy trying to lure masculine back into partnership. This is feminine energy trying to say to masculine, I'm telling you these things because I care about you. And if that's a masculine that recognizes this, that this is a feminine that is almost foregone the desire to come back into partnership because their care of masculine trumps their own need of being in union with that energy, then there's something here we see that masculine may be taking to a certain extent heavy accountability in the fact that there's something about this energy that is extremely special, that is extremely valuable. And we see here that that is potentially allowing masculine to be in a modality of doing something that they haven't potentially done before, which is again, being more open energetically to someone, leading with what they truly desire, with a recognition that this is a feminine energy, that there's some kind of evidence that masculine may feel right now in separation, in feeling like this isn't feminine saying one thing and meaning another. This is something about masculine wanting to take and trust feminine's intuition here and allow this to be some potential pathway into a new partnership possibility. Masculine energy in separation right now and feminine, this could also be a lot of closure right now. I have to say, this is either an open or a door, and these are not oppositional. When a door is open, you can either walk through it, you can walk into something, or you can walk out of something. So I'm saying here the door is open to a certain extent, because just as we're seeing this, there's a lot of energy that is not going to see the correct response here and decide that that is almost it, allowing for the closing of a karmic cycle and almost feeling confident and okay about it. Because what we're almost seeing to a certain extent is this modality or this moment wherein feminine energy is not allowing their heart to guide them. They're just looking at what they see. They're letting their observation drive their decision point right now. And what is feminine doing? Feminine is trying to see and look into the heart of masculine right now, not from a place of emotional care, but to say, do I see what I know is required to be able to have a good union with someone? Do I see the gestures? Do I see the habits? Do I see the practices that amplify that someone has the ability to maintain and come into divine union? And that is why we see feminine is, again, amplifying to masculine right now, regardless of what shape it takes. Clarity of purpose, intentionality. What are your intentions? Be clear on what you want. Tell me what it is you want so I can tell you if I can meet you there. That is what we are seeing that feminine is waiting to see from masculine right now. And if feminine does not see a masculine stepping forward in this way, then feminine energy is making that determination that they're moving forward to seek it out in other energy, regardless of how they feel emotionally. Masculine, you may be feeling like this on the part of a feminine. And that ability, that releasing of the throat chakra, to open up, to truly tell the feminine what it is that would be your ideal situation or circumstance with that energy, is in a way what that unconventional approach is going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards between our Hierophant, our Knight of Swords, and our Six of Cups. That unconventional approach, potentially for energies in separation right now, is providing a tremendous amount of productivity. Because for all of feminine energy sees, and I have to stress this, all that feminine energy is seeking from masculine is not feminine energy that's trying to force a masculine to come into divine union with them. This is feminine energy saying, just tell me what it is you want right now. Just tell me what it is. Show me where you are on this map. I've got the map out. I literally laid the map out. Just show me your coordinates. show me where they are. For the energy of masculine saying, I'm right here. Then feminine's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll pick you up in an hour. Because that's almost that moment of feminine feeling that that is a masculine that has overcome, that has shown them through a moment of saying something that they feel or fear that would lead to rejection of the feminine. Not just saying what they think the feminine wants to hear, but what is true in their heart space. This is a feminine saying, this is something we can work with. This is a feminine masculine energy that isn't going to try to save me from the hard thing. This is a masculine that realizes that only as co-creators, that ability to say something hard to me, to say something difficult, is an amplification of love, because that ability to say something hard or do something hard is an amplification of love, because they're not having their feelings spared for the sake of what you're trying to create. So we see that for the feminine receiving that from masculine right now, this is going to potentially feel like a breakthrough moment that may lead to more productivity going forward. Other energy right now, not seeing this is done. If feminine's in a moment where they have asked this of masculine and masculine is either feeling reluctant or refusing, or worse, getting reactionary on it, coming into a space or state of denial of what the feminine is observing or asking for, that's almost feminine immediately. And I have to see here, I'm not even seeing conflict here. This is almost feminine saying to masculine at that moment, I wish you the best. I wish you the best. We clearly don't want the same thing, because this is almost a feminine energy that is seeing something on the part of the masculine that they don't even want to get into a conflict space with it. They just want to immediately start to try to move into healing, because this is almost feminine that has come into a point of feeling like this is not only potentially a masculine energy that does not desire true divine union, but is also too argumentative or too reactive to be able to discuss or address it with. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this ability of taking unconventional approaches, of opening up, is literally just deepening the bonds of the connection. Because again, the more that you open, the more threads that you show to each other, it's not creating a point of reactivity and volatility. Though I will point out, for some of the masculine energy, something that you are getting from the feminine may feel a little triggering. But what are you doing? You're alchemizing that trigger into care and productivity. You're not allowing yourself to jump forward in terms of being reactionary, because you're putting the care of the energy above your own emotionality. And that moment, the gift, and masculine is almost alchemizing that by saying the gift is them showing me something. That if the feminine is showing something to masculine, this is masculine being like, this is a feminine showing me their map and I'm showing them theirs. And there's going to be some places on that map that are hard to look at. There are going to be some dark woods. What the heck's that? We don't go there. That's fine, because that's, again, the more that you see, the more that is the gift that you're giving each other, because you're showing each other the connective tissue that is between you both by amplifying and helping each other understand the landscape deeper. Masculine and feminine coming in the divine union frequency, that are in the divine union frequency right now. You guys do this all the time. You guys know each other's maps like back of your hand. You're always learning, but like most of it, is there. What we see here has to do with how you're approaching moving that into a place where it becomes even better. This is about trying to make all of the energy around you as positive as possible. And we see here it is requiring unconventional approaches. It's easier for masculine right now, because masculine is taking much more of a hands-on approach. Feminine is moving a little bit more quietly right now, because again, feminine is trying to navigate that internal hurdle right now as it relates to how they're moving versus how they're feeling. Clarification between our Knight of Swords, our Six of Cups, our Empress in its reversal. One card, please. That is not one card. 4 cards coming. Oh my gosh. 4 cards coming out. We're going to go through them real quick, okay? This is why the feminine energy is again, feminine is literally not taking as much fast action as masculine right now, because feminine is going, it's complicated. This is complicated work. This is feminine energy right now that is like looking very carefully at a lot of threads right now and trying to figure out the best way to navigate things right now. Because for feminine, I have to stress, this isn't necessarily feeling so much like just running into something and doing something. This is feeling a lot more like operation. This is feeling a lot more like feminine not wanting to get like zapped on things right now as they try to untangle and unravel things, potentially even with other feminine energy. Because again, having that modality, having that ability to like look at things with a very fine, careful point of observation. That is where we see a lot of the feminine energy has a beautiful gift. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And that fastidiousness, that care, that delicateness that we're seeing here is almost creating a moment for feminine to try to figure out what feels like it is productive, that actually requires their time, effort, and energy, versus what feminine may just feel like is going to become more of an overcomplication to things. And this is feminine doing a lot of internal work right now on the self to try to ascertain what they need to put their time, effort, and energy in versus what is going to feel like it is going to be almost too much effort and energy to try to fix right now. So this isn't even feminine energy necessarily saying that they're not in a modality of wanting to fix something. This is feminine getting very fastidious as to where they want to put their energy, and it's coming through with the prioritization of planning. So this is feminine energy that, in a way, the tangible that we're seeing for feminine right now has a lot more to do with planning. Masculine, you may be seeing this a lot with the feminine energy right now. So while you may be taking a lot of like big moves right now, you may be seeing that feminine is doing a lot more of this fine tuning, as it were. But again, recognizing a feminine masculine, seeing the fact that this is a good, what do we see here? We've got two energies that are almost acting, I don't know, what do you want to call that? Good counterparts. One is taking a lot more big, sweeping, grand movements right now. The other one is moving more in terms of that fastidiousness. These are very well energetically aligned energies because, again, one is doing the big moves and one is doing the small moves. This is, again, the beauty of co-creating, is that you don't necessarily both need to be doing the same modality all the time. You can work together in a space doing things different ways. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. You may be recognizing right now, masculine, that again, you are taking a lot more practical steps right now. Feminine is opening up to you right now, specifically because this is a feminine that is seeing you put your actions to words. This is feminine that's almost seeing the fact that you're prioritizing the connection with feminine above everything else. And anything else right now, to a certain extent, masculine, you're recognizing the feminine is opening up to you more because this is a feminine that is feeling, again, the more that you're amplifying that the feminine is a priority, you're probably realizing that you're starting to build a deeper connection with this feminine energy, because this is a feminine energy that feels safe to open up to you because you're showing to a certain extent that all your priority is cultivating an environment through which the feminine feels like they are safe to do so. And again, we see here masculine, you're also seeing the ability, the feminine's also doing a lot of unpacking with you right now. They haven't necessarily taken the steps that you have on them things. They're almost opening up to you about them to get your insight prior to taking those steps. This is a feminine that feels safe enough, having seen you do something, to now do it themselves. Masculine and feminine coming into divine in separation right now. This is feminine utilizing that point of discernment to try to ascertain whether something can be healed and fixed with masculine versus whether the masculine connection is one that needs to be healed from. The way the feminine energy is articulating and deciding that is by feminine being very open and honest right now on what they're seeing from the masculine, to see if this is a modality that masculine is taking that point as a point of path work, not recognizing it for what it is. Feminine saying to masculine, what are we growing here? What are we doing? If masculine is providing that clarity to feminine, feminine saying, great, I'm invested. You're showing me an ability to offer the clarity and the intentionality of purpose that is required to coming into divine union. Feminine's like, beautiful. You've recognized, if you haven't been doing that in the past, by taking accountability, and now you're giving me that clarity on what we're creating in whatever shape that is. And feminine's now telling masculine what they emotionally or energetically can provide in kind, whether they can be emotionally invested in that or not. A lot of this is feeling like, or whether they feel like that isn't the direction that they desire to be in. For the other feminine energy right now, the only way we see that this is potentially creating an unhealed karmic connection is if the feminine is saying to the masculine right now, whatever you want this to be, I'm going to try to meet you there, but you have to be clear and tell me what you want. If this is a masculine that's getting reactive to this right now, is denying what the feminine's experiencing, this is feminine going, I need to heal from this. This is not what I thought it was. This is not what I thought it was. This is something that I need to heal from. And that's why we almost see that this is a feminine that's almost immediately pulling back their energy, potentially even saying to masculine, I wish you the best. This is great. No, I appreciate this. And this is almost feminine energy trying to do so in a way that even now they're trying to heal something, because this is feminine that's feeling to a certain extent that that's masculine energy that is not on the same healing journey as feminine, because that's a masculine that can't take accountability of their reactivity space. All they see when there's a problem that's presented as something to potentially push against instead of trying to work to fix. So masculine, you may be feeling right now that, again, there may be a point of frustration that's happening if you're in a modality where, again, you're feeling more reactive and you're trying to convince feminine. If you're not coming into a place where you're trying to convince feminine that what they're feeling or seeing isn't what they're feeling or seeing, you're potentially getting a lot of separation that's potentially happening right now, because this is a feminine energy that's almost affirming to you and saying, I know how I feel. I know how I feel, but it's not healthy to try to tell someone how they should feel. Continuing, but for a lot of the masculine energy right now, we see that this is potentially leading to a lot of healthy path work, especially if you are recognizing that something that the feminine is bringing forward to you isn't being brought forward to try to create problems, but trying to find that worthwhile solution. Clarification between our Empress and our Lovers card. Empress in its reversal on our Lovers card. 2 cards coming out. We're just chatty Cathy today, huh? Okay. Page of Pentacles in its reversal and our 5 of Wands. I gotta be honest. Some of this is going to feel like a lot of energy moving away from other energy right now, because I have to stress, anything in this conversation that feels like it's just creating conflict in the place where someone isn't looking for conflict, they're looking for a solution to be offered. This is feminine, again, feeling in a way, and this is going to be painful for the feminine because it's not happening due to a lack of love. This is a feminine almost forcing themselves to emotionally pull away from a feminine energy, from a masculine energy, specifically due to the fact that they feel that this isn't leading to what could productively be a divine union. Feminine energy is almost saying that they would do anything for love, but they don't want to sacrifice the potentiality of having divine union for the sake of being in something that is almost going to require them to have an unworthy ratio as it relates to just experiencing conflict when there's a problem, instead of having some productive path forward. Potentially a lot of feminine energy is telling this to masculine right now. Potentially saying that there's something about someone's reactivity or their over-emotionality or their inability to move out of a conflict space that may be requiring or causing an energy to pull away. And I'll also say here, there may be a little bit of vice versa happening with some of the masculine having to say that to some feminine energy today too. This can go both ways here. If there's a modality here wherein either energy is not utilizing a space or place of a problem occurring to allow for a point of productivity, but instead is just trying to create conflict, this is why we see that energy is almost pulling away from this, because again, it's the observation that a divine union, it's not that a divine union doesn't have conflict. It's the fact that divine union recognizes that conflict is effectively useless to a certain extent. Conflict doesn't fix anything. Fixing something fixes something. Finding something productive to pull from a point of conflict is the end goal. Conflict itself shouldn't just create a point that creates an inevitable pause on something, because it's not about being right. Because when you're in a divine union, nobody's right unless everyone is right. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, you're kind of recognizing this. And this could be one of the advantages that you're seeing right now if coming into the divine union frequency. The problem that we're seeing for a lot of energy coming into the divine union frequency is the feeling of the conflict being all around you in the process. That conflict being one having potentially to do with the fact that for the energy coming into divine union, what do we see is happening here? Feminine is pulling away from some energy right now romantically. Masculine is pulling away from some energy right now practically. Why? Because their concentration needs to be on the prioritization of the divine union. And guess what? Shocker, it's creating some conflict. So we see here that the energy coming into divine union feels potentially like a bit of this us against the world mentality right now, because it may feel like there's a lot of addressing of some of the unhealed karmic energy around you right now that feels like it's something that needs to be intentionally focused on and addressed, but only to a certain ratio as you move forward. Masculine and feminine deep in the heart of the divine union. What we're seeing here is this is that modality of recognizing that you're doing a lot of very intense path work right now. It is very nuanced. Masculine and feminine in the divine union right now feel like they're doing a lot of work that's almost hard, because it's not even like you can go to other energy and get that point of advice. You feel like you're doing it together. You're tackling things that other people don't necessarily need to tackle, because the work that you're doing and healing some things right now feels like it is so nuanced that it's almost hard to find that path on it. It's hard to find. You're like having to do things in unconventional ways because like you don't really have a script for it. But that's also the value of the partnership itself. You are almost intentionally addressing things that are a bit more difficult because you feel like the strength of the partnership allows one to tackle something that you may have felt unprepared to tackle prior to this moment. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lovers and our High Priestess. Love those two cards together. Clarification coming through right now with our Fool card in its reversal. The Divine Union energy is again utilizing the experiences from the past to forge ahead into new possibilities and new experiences. The problem with this is the fact that you guys don't feel like you have a playbook. This is literally feeling like, again, it's not the one that you're taking a leap of faith off of. A leap of faith on, because you're not taking leaps of faith because you're working together. Energetically, you can't take a leap of faith because like when you're working with someone, you have to make sure that you're both taking those steps together. So we see here that this is feeling like a lot of intentionality. Feminine's moving a lot more slowly than masculine is. And it's going to feel like a lot more emotional and internal right now for the feminine because this is feminine. Masculine's putting a lot of this into practical application. And with that guidance point, that GPS of feminine as helping to guide that path. Feminine is moving in this modality right now more from a place and space of taking a bit more of a sense of caution, taking something right now and moving something forward with a lot of care and intentionality, but feminine's being a lot more reserved as they do so. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this ability to look at situations and circumstances around you right now that feel like they are imbued with some sense of conflict, either metaphysical or tangible. The ability to do so together, this is how you guys are giving each other. This is why that opening is happening, because you're no longer experiencing these from a point of autonomy. You're doing it together. Their problems are your problems. Your problems are their problems. You better be open with each other about what those problems are because they're now the other one's problem. But that means you're also each other's solution. So we see here that feminine, again, the masculine that's realizing the feminine opening up in this way is a gift. And the masculine is utilizing that as a gift as well, because we see here that feminine is opening up more to masculine so that they can figure out a way forward together. Masculine seeing a feminine doing so and recognizing that that is the value of a feminine opening up in this degree instead of getting reactionary towards it is also amplifying the fact that you guys are feeling like you're forging ahead in new ways, because again, it's really just any feeling of conflict around you feels like it's just reinforcing what you're creating together. Masculine and feminine. It's almost like that moment of saying like, wow, what we're creating together must be pretty important if it's got everyone's bees in a bonnet. Bees in a bonnet. Everyone like in that modality to a certain extent. I can't get any of the statements correct today. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see that this is an open door moment. And this open door moment is either going to lead. I have to see here. I typically don't see this. This is a very unique time. The ability for energy to come back into union right now is very high, especially, but again, it's not just someone walking in and being like, hi, I want to come back into union. It's you see the path that I'm explaining here that leads to union is someone being able to observe through the act of accountability and intentionality of purpose what needs to be corrected from the past to be able to move forward in this way. The ability for energy to show that ability. This is a masculine approaching feminine and showing the ability of taking accountability for what was wrong in the past, intentionality in going forward, and clarity as to what they want to create with the feminine from being a point of a co-creator is allowing for a new possibility of partnerships to occur here. Feminine seeing that is again reserving, like moving with the same type of reservation that we see with feminine. Masculine taking a bit more of a wait and see approach as to whether there will be consistency in staying in that vibration, but again allowing this to be a moment of potentially coming back into union with some energy. For other parts of the connection point right now, this may be an indefinite breaking away from some cycles right now. And it's going to feel in a way, the reason that this is feeling like a completion is because it's not an unhealed karmic connection. This feels like it is getting healed as soon as it happens. Because if this is a feminine energy that is moving away from a masculine that they feel that they have a lot of love for, but that ultimately they recognize is too much in a reactionary place to be able to build with. This is feminine feeling that they are ready to release that path because they are aspiring for building, wanting to desire to build something with an energy that feels like they are in alignment to being a co-creator. And that is why we see that a lot of the feminine energy may not necessarily even be trying to create a conflict point. If they're observing this problem around something around the masculine right now, they may just be wishing them best and trying to just move forward in a very healing way. Masculine, you may also be feeling that right now if you're seeing a feminine energy that is too argumentative about looking at problems to find solutions. And that in itself may also be amplifying that you yourself are moving in that way. Now, but I do see here that this is a moment that is really one way or another, but either way it is healing, because the observation point is effectively moving away from something with the ideal and aspiration of finding something that feels more equitable, that may create a better, more equal divine union. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our 10 of Pentacles, our 4 of Pentacles, our Queen of Cups, our 7 of Pentacles, and our Devil card. We're going to go through this quickly. One card to clarify. Thank you. Balance. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We needed all those cards to get to this card. Okay. So that's the thing. This is all about balance right now. And for masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, finding that balance is really tricky, because what are we seeing doing here? It's not the fact that you don't have the frequency of union. It's that you're trying to extend it out more. You're trying to broaden the range of something here. And even now that's requiring a bit of balance, because you already have the balance and the energy of the frequency you've created amongst yourselves. But what you're really trying to do is figure out how to bring balance into things that you feel are not in alignment. And when we move into that modality of balance, it's a recognition that we can't force balance into someone. We can't force balance into something. That's imbalance. It has to be choice. There has to be an aspect of choice here. And that's why we see masculine is recognizing and feeling the impact around them right now of the energy that they may have tried to put some of that healing towards, coming back with the amplification of their choice as to whether they feel like the energy outside of the self can come into that same modality or not. Feminine is utilizing choice internally right now to try to ascertain what they feel is ready to try to heal, what they feel like they need, they can put something energetically into, versus something that they may feel is not ready or is going to feel like too much of an energetic pull on them, that they don't have the bandwidth to try to heal something right now. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now, maintaining and finding this balance is what you're doing. You're moving deeper into the heart of the divine union. And that balance is one that is almost forcing you to look at situations outside of the divine union to ascertain what, much like the energy in the heart of the divine union is doing, what feels like it can be healed versus what feels like it must be released as you continue forward in this way. And you are utilizing that mutual perception now to be able to look at things and make new choices based on the perception that you now have that is different, being in the frequency of divine union. Masculine and feminine separation. This is why we see that if there's some energy right now that is separating, it may feel like the healing, not only a separation, it may feel like an end of a karmic connection. It may also feel like a moment of healing that's coming into some connections right now, because this is not just the fact that you're ending something. You may feel like you have peace around it. You may understand that level of understanding coming through on something right now is allowing you to walk away from something and feel okay about it, especially if this is a feminine energy that's tried to articulate to a masculine that what needs to change. If this is a feminine that says, I tried to tell them, but they were too reactionary about it. They refused to hear me. They were creating too much conflict. And that's a feminine saying, I can't build with them. I can't grow with them because they don't hear me expressing a need as something that we can work to build together. This is potentially something that they just see as something that they need to push against. Masculine, some of the masculine energy may be in the same modality of seeing like, maybe feeling like, again, there's a feminine energy that I tried to move towards, but all they had to do was, all they were telling me was what was wrong, and I couldn't see a solution to it. That may also feel like a balance point to you, because again, if you weren't seeking to fix it, then it feels like you're just relieving yourself of it. But for a lot of energy right now, this is potentially speaking towards healing. This is potentially speaking to a balance being reached in some things from the past, being able to come into partnership again because the balance has potentially been reached, especially if there's a masculine energy right now that is able to observe and ascertain from a point of accountability and clarity of purpose what needs to be corrected going forward, then that feminine seeing that on the part of a masculine that can identify the difference between the past and the present in this way, to amplify what it is that they want with the feminine, that is feminine feeling to a certain extent satisfied enough to feel like there's still a possibility of growth here. Something is new, something that can be opened, something that feels like it's come into balance. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. There's a lot of them here. Between the 10 of Pentacles, the Devil card, the 4 of Pentacles in its reversal, and our 6 of Pentacles, and in combination, this is the knot here between our 5 of Wands and our Knight of our Page of Pentacles. So this is the snarl you see here. This is why feminine's moving so slowly. This is feminine doing a lot of this like lace work right now and trying to figure out how to untangle this. Hermit card. This is the type of thing that's requiring a little bit of solitude to work out here. For some of the feminine energy, one of the reasons that we see that this is occurring right now is almost feminine coming into a modality right now of ascertaining and feeling to a certain extent that this is something that they... And this is what I'm seeing for the feminine energy that's hard. It's like feminine's trying to come into a point of determination of the self on how to move forward in this, but at the same time recognizing that they necessarily can't. This is a problem with the feminine. This is like a real knot right now, especially for the feminine energy. Because what we're seeing here is this is a feminine energy that's trying to unpack something within the self before they present it to the masculine. Because there's a need or desire not to want to be misunderstood. And so we see here, this is feminine literally looking at this like knot, recognizing to a certain extent. And again, what did I say was a problem for feminine? This is feminine doing some like heavy computing right now, because feminine's going, how do I fix something without over giving to something that doesn't deserve that type of energy? How do I don't want to speak a problem into being if I don't want to put energy towards it. This is feminine doing a lot of internal calculus right now to figure out not just how they want to move forward, but how they want to like navigate this even in partnership, because this is a lot of deep thinking here. Masculine, you may be seeing this on the part of feminine right now, and this is why we see some of the masculine energy going through a point of exhaustion, because this is happening in the tangible realm. For masculine right now, this is happening in the tangible realm right now as it relates to some of the karmic connections that are currently around you right now. This is having to do a lot of work right now. This is a problem. Remember I said these energies are now not necessarily completely working together because they're working in different ways. This is a problem because you're kind of navigating something that feels like it's overwhelming on both fronts, but in different ways. So while you're both doing it in different ways, it is creating a moment that may feel somewhat isolating because it doesn't necessarily feel like you have that connectiveness in doing it together. There's a little bit of a synapse break between the choices that you're making in that modality right now versus how well you can be in communication during it. Again, feminine navigating these on the internal spiritual side, masculine doing it on the practical end. And this could be even lead to a sort of few moments right now that may create points of frustration in terms of someone feeling like someone made a choice and the other person being like, well, when did you make that choice? And you're like, I made it a minute ago. I'm like, why didn't you talk to me about it? I didn't have time to talk to you about it. Because there's a moment here that we see that like that inability to have that time together, maybe creating a little bit more static in between. It's not that you guys aren't doing the same work. It's that sometimes the clarity of what one is doing may feel a little bit more foggy right now. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This ability, shedding light on things, is the goal right now. The problem with it is, again, this is potentially feeling like a lot of the unpacking that you're doing. This is going to feel like a little bit of like, you know, energetically for the energy coming into divine union right now, the more you get a full picture on something, in a way, you're like, oh, well, I understand why you didn't want to tell me about that. That's a whole lot of craziness, right? Because this is I have to stress here, for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, this is like masculine and feminine holding this little bag and everyone being like, what's in that bag? And you're like, you don't want to know what's in this bag. Don't worry about this bag. And they're like, no, but what's in the bag? Don't worry. And now finally, what's in the bag, and being like, someone being like, all right, sit down. I'm going to explain the whole thing to you. How much time do you have? And the energy in the divine union is going, I got all the time in the world. And be like, all right, it's a little complicated. I didn't give you all the nuances to something because like, it's not the kind of thing that like you go into telling someone, this is literally that moment of someone being like, all right, I'm going to show you all the sides to something that you may have just had like that initial aspect on, but almost that point of conscientiousness coming in and basically someone saying to the other and saying, I didn't say this to you not because I was trying to keep it from you. It's because it's complicated and confusing and I didn't and the opportunity to do so, and it felt too self-aggrandizing to tell you prior to this point. This is almost again that point of like not just telling someone something but then having to explain to someone why you didn't go into all the details is like one of these moments, because it's almost creating like a bit of a Zeno's paradox as it relates to like the short story versus the long story on something. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between, I want to go between whatever this is. But these weren't all the colors here. I believe these were the cards. Hold on a minute. It was definitely the conflict card here. I remember that. Yeah, I got it now. We're back. Okay. Clarification between the Page of Pentacles in its reversal, the Five of Wands, and the Fool card. Careful work through conflict. Deciding what you do want to give toward effort and energy towards versus what you don't. Thank you for one card. Reconsideration points. That's what's important right now. It's funny I said Zeno paradox because that makes a lot of sense here. Masculine and feminine energy coming that are in the heart of the divine union. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed something. Separation energy here. This is that painful point, because the thing that we're seeing that's painful right now is a lot of the things that we see that are being tackled right now in separation is looking at something. It's seeing all of the chaos around something right now. And what did I tell you is happening? It's okay if something's chaotic. It's okay if something is complicated. We see that the energies right now in separation are almost trying to amplify to each other and say, I understand the fact that life is not easy. Life is complicated and life is messy. The only thing that is becoming a barrier for being able to come back into union is if someone isn't willing to shed light on something when someone is asked. The ability to identify whether someone is willing to provide that source of light and guidance when someone sees a darkened area, to provide those coordinates, is amplified right now as it relates to seeing circumstances and situations right now to determine and ascertain whether there is a possibility of something going forward or whether someone's going to feel karmically healed enough to be able to move away from something, feeling that they're getting affirmation that someone is refusing or has an inability to provide that source of light. Clarification right now, again, now we're going back here to the Page of Pentacles, Five of Wands, Fool card in its reversal is reconsideration. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union right now, that ability to constantly reassess is your value metric. Masculine and feminine energy realize that it's not a question right now for the energy in divine union about closing the doors on things. Again, I told you a lot of this work in divine union, just realize that your ability not to get triggered by something has now allowed you a lot of backwards and forwards mobility. Your mobility is almost extended right now energetically and spiritually because you realize that you can now go through something that you felt that in the past you had to avoid. Now is more of a point of assessing and using discernment to figure out what you want to address right now versus what you feel like you don't necessarily have the time, energy, or bandwidth to tackle. What's interesting about this right now for the energy in divine union, this isn't feeling like closing a door. It's all about prioritization of what feels like it requires your attention the most right now. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union. This is that modality. The reason you're unpacking this with each other right now is the recognition that you're about to move into something else. And this is almost saying, I need to tell you these things. I need to tell you these things not only for the sake of telling you, but I also need to tell you because being in the place that I am now in the divine union frequency, may mean that I want to take a different perspective. I may want to take a different tactic. I need your opinion on these because my problems just became your problems. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that point. Looking at a conflict. This is all that's going to happen right now that's going to decide whether these energies are coming back into union or whether this is the closing out of a cycle. Are you looking at something that is a conflict point and you are withholding from being able to fix that conflict, or are you seeing the conflict as a source of productivity, as an ability to start anew? The conflict, as I've been saying over the last few days, is the point of productivity because this is a conflict that is providing a solution in the way. This is a conflict that isn't just conflict for the sake of conflict. This is conflict that is arising by showing someone is trying to show someone else that they are confused, that they are lost on the journey. That's why this is feeling like a guidance point, because the only thing that's leading this to an inseparable separation point is if someone is almost refusing to provide someone what they need so that they don't feel lost in a relationship. And even now we see that that ability to provide that clarity is there. And that's why there's a moment here that feels like a door that's being opened. Justice card and the Hermit in its reversal, one card to clarify. Clarification is the Four of Wands in its reversal. That's the only problem that we're seeing with masculine and feminine right now in divine union. The ability to reach balance and not be able to be clear with each other may lead to some confusing circumstances as it relates to planning. That's why we see that for the energy right now, this could even feel like some frustrating energy if in divine union, because it's that modality of feeling like when you're not in constant communication with each other, sometimes plans can get changed. Sometimes plans can be shifted. So it can feel like a little bit like that ground can feel a little shaky right now, even in the heart of the divine union frequency, because you're working on different modalities, but in the same frequency. Different modalities in the same frequency. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is that moment of facing situations and circumstances that may be requiring you to change some plans, because again, this may be a moment of looking. One of the reasons some of these boxes might be getting open right now is there could be the fact that someone has put themselves in some physical obligations that now need to be taken into reconsideration because the divine union wasn't present when they were created. So this is almost that, again, etheric work happening right now in the tangible plane. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is that point that feels a bit cut and dry. Either something can work or something cannot. Either someone's providing that locationality, that clarity, giving those coordinates as to what they want, or they're not. And this is why we see that this is almost feeling like the end or the clearing of a karmic cycle. Because if there is this feeling of someone who is intentionally trying to mislead or misguide or doesn't know where they're going, that is literally the energy of the oppositional energy saying, well, I guess that's all there is to it. You know, we can't Lois and Clark this if you're not going to be one of the persons, if one of us doesn't know where we're going. You can't be co-creators with someone if someone's not willing to build the shape of what that looks like going forward. But for others, the ability to clarify this is the breakthrough point. It will be the breakthrough point. Clarification between our Hermit card in combination with our Judgment in its reversal. Hermit card in its reversal in combination with our Judgment in its reversal. Can't go anywhere without a map. Can't go anywhere without a map. Can't go anywhere without a map. Can't go anywhere without a destination. This is why we see for a lot of the energy and separation right now, this is a moment of just potentially moving away from something, because this is that moment of feminine and masculine looking at each other and saying, if you don't know what you want, if you don't know where you're going, I can't help you. I'm certainly not going to tell you where that is. I can work with you. I can tell you, I can tell you where I'm going, and this is feminine almost saying, I'm not telling you where I'm going. A lot of the feminine energy right now is requiring masculine to tell them first what they want, because feminine is feeling too often. Feminine feels like feminine was like far too many times. Feminine feels like they said to masculine what they want. Masculine went, yup. That's so funny. I was going to Albuquerque too. What are the odds? And this is feminine being like, we're not doing that anymore. This is feminine saying, you have to tell me where you're going. I will tell you whether I am on the same journey. And we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, that modality is how feminine's like, I'm breaking out of a cycle, because feminine's like, you need to tell me what you want, and I will tell you whether I am also on that same journey. Masculine, you may be feeling this right now in the part of the feminine, which is, again, having to give them the shape of what it is that you aspire and desire to. And recognizing and seeing whether the feminine almost saying to you, when you tell me, I will tell you. For some of the energy right now, this is potentially leading to a breakage away point. Because if you're not giving each other that clarity, or you're not able to provide that clarity, then the energy is just moving away from each other. If you do, then there's productivity here. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is the changing of plans because of being in divine union. There's something here I'm seeing observably where a lot of energy right now, if in divine union, being in divine union is requiring some changes in plans, because there's something here that you may have had an intentionality of moving towards right now, recognizing that prior to this point, you were thinking it from a point of autonomy. And even now, the ability to look at things with mutual perspective is changing the landscape as it relates to your plans going forward. Masculine and feminine in the heart of divine union right now, this may feel like a lot of practical confusion today. This may be feeling like a lot of conversations about how to get in better alignment on a practical level. Because again, when one person is working in one space and one person's working in another, the ability to have foresight is literally the biggest gift that we can provide each other, because it helps us be able to determine. And again, if we're not necessarily able to be in immediate contact with each other in the moment, knowing and anticipating where someone's going to be or what they're going to do will at least give us the equipment that we need to help make an immediate choice for the sake of all the energy in the divine union. Final card for today's spread. Oh, forgive me, guys. Between our Four of Wands in its reversal, our Three of Wands in its reversal, that's what we got here. We got one of these. May I please have one card to clarify? Knight of Pentacles. Again, one of the conversations that may be coming through right now, even for a lot of the masculine energy that sees feminine doing a lot of this internal work, is almost masculine, almost amplifying to feminine energy. I cannot help you. I cannot help you with something unless you tell me what it is. I cannot anticipate your needs before they are there. I cannot foresee something that you do not show me. I don't have that ability. This is masculine potentially having that harder conversation with feminine, especially because one of the things we see is feminine's like, I can. Feminine's like, I got a big problem with that. All I can do is see the future. All I can do is foresee problems before they occur. All I can do is anticipate. That's all feminine's doing right now. And this is feminine doing a lot of that work within the self. And this is why we see some of this disparity potentially even in divine union, because this could be feeling like masculine feels to a certain extent that feminine isn't providing enough clarity here. So this may be feeling like masculine's trying to say to feminine, and that's also with that like vacillation point. I can only provide to forward to you if you show me where that is. So it's interesting because you see that this is you see what's happening? This is the feminine energy to masculine in separation. This is masculine saying it to feminine in divine union. See how that works? So we've got here masculine saying, you have to show me. You have to tell me what you need so I can be able to provide. You have to tell me what your plans are so that I can work around them. So even now we see that there may be a lot of discussion about preparation and looking ahead to make sure that both energies feel like they have what they need to be able to make immediate choices, like more sudden choices in the moment. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is simply a moment of potentially looking at things. And this may have even arisen because something about opening up in this capacity right now is almost showing some kind of adjustment to plans, showing some kind of shifting on a practical level right now. Because this is almost energy that did not anticipate to be in divine union in this way, and it's requiring some modification of those plans. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that modality that we see as either leading to breakthroughs, but it's leading to breakthroughs in a very interesting way because, again, what do we see is happening here? This is not a masculine coming back into union with feminine that's just affirming whatever the feminine wants. This isn't a feminine saying, I want this type of relationship. A masculine's going, me too. This is feminine that's literally saying, tell me what that relationship is. Tell me why you're back here. Tell me what you're seeking. Show me what that is. I will tell you if I'm willing to be there for it. And it's putting masculine in a modality where there is a connection point here. There's a possibility of coming back into union, but it only can come if masculine is being consistent with what it is that they're offering feminine. And what is feminine? And feminine's not looking for that consistency as an object. Feminine isn't looking for it as a label. Feminine isn't looking for it as like a promise. Feminine is looking for it by saying to masculine, articulate to me what that path ahead looks like. What do you see with us? What do you see? What do you aspire for? And if feminine sees that, then that in itself shows that change, because this is a masculine that's almost saying to feminine something that may feel like it deviates from what the feminine wants, but it at least gives them ground to either make a choice or to give their point of modification. To almost say to masculine, okay, close, that's close to what I want. This is what I want, right? It's creating a moment that there can be some point of workable area here, versus a situation right now where either, again, masculine is either moving towards feminine and potentially refusing to give feminine that clarity, then that's almost the closure of the cycle. Or if this is masculine that's putting something forth to feminine, and this is also, again, a healthy potential closing of a cycle, because this is feminine that may be hearing out what the masculine desires and saying in a way, thank you, I appreciate you being honest with me, but ultimately that's not necessarily what I aspire to. But even having that modality right now is allowing for some fertile ground to be able to move forward as it relates to discussion of differentiation. Bottom of the deck on these readings right now is, what did I say about that blocked throat chakra? Especially for the masculine energy and separation right now, opening up in this capacity is so difficult because it feels like it's breaking some kind of template about not being open and honest about yourself and your feelings and your desires. For a lot of the masculine energy, this is breaking through something that you are asking yourself and maybe potentially saying to yourself, why do I not feel like I can be open in this way? Potentially even seeing, again, some of that past work and feeling like someone told you or taught you in some latent way that it was not okay to make things this easy. Feminine, this inability of masculine just to be open in this way, just to put their cards on the table to a certain extent, is something that the feminine has reached an exhaustion point on, because this is feminine energy that feels like all they're constantly being asked and forced to do is put their cards on the table. This is feminine almost now kind of moving in that place and being like, I will tell you what I want, but first tell me what you want so I make sure that you're not just telling me what you think you want me to hear. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this having to pull back on things right now is creating some energetic difficulty, because that moment of having to go around to energy around you and pull back your energy may create this point of frustration that you're both currently encountering, and which is almost requiring you to be more open because you're almost feeling some of the blowback on that, and you want to make sure that there's an understanding on the other energy about what's effectively happening to you right now. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union right now, this ability to be completely open to each other right now, it's not the question that you guys aren't open, it's more the fact of not wanting to overburden someone or overtax someone who you feel is already overburdened and overtaxed. So we see here that for the energy right now in divine union, it's not necessarily the fact that you don't have a desire to be open to each other, it's seeing someone at a point of overwhelm and being very discriminating in not wanting to overburden them with something that you're potentially going through. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving these messages. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.